Hello. So today I want to talk about, something quite basic in a way, which is why do we want experiences that are different to the one that we're having? Now, what's interesting is that actually most of the time we don't really know what experience we are having, and that's because we're looking elsewhere. It's a very strange phenomenon. So we're always making plans and knowing what we're going to do next, or we've got too many things to do and we're trying to do three things at a time, or we're looking on our phones, talking to people. We never have enough time to actually, or rather, we don't make time. We do have enough time, but we don't make time to just be with ourselves and to experience what's actually in our, well, you could call it our current situation. Where we are right now, what we're looking at right now, what we're hearing right now. And the current experience, if you're willing to go there, is actually much more fulfilling than the kind of fantasies we're having or the worries that we're concerned about. That's why it's really good to learn to meditate, because in a way we learn how to be aware. Well, I know you're conscious, but how aware are you? Consciousness and awareness are very interesting things. And we're only going to know them by really investigating them, by really looking at what's there. So, for example, let's say that I've got a bit of a pain. Okay, so I've got a pain in my arm. And what happens? Well, maybe I can start getting worried about it. Is this pain going to go away? What's the diagnosis? Have I got arthritis? Have I pulled a muscle? Should I go and see an osteopath? Should I go and see a physiotherapist? So all sorts of thoughts can go around in my mind. If it gets worse, will I be able to do the things I want to do? Will I be able to go on that holiday? Will I be able to drive? So I can add all sorts of concerns. Well, there is an alternative. I can really go into the experience of the pain in my arm. And particularly if I'm sitting in meditation, it's a really interesting thing to do, because what I find is that the pain in my arm is not a thing. I've made it into a sort of demon that's sitting there inside my arm. But actually, it's not a thing. It's not even something I can label as a pain, not if I really look. It's a changing sensation. And sometimes that sensation's more acute, and sometimes it's more diffuse. But I won't notice if I start thinking about the pain. If I can relax, if I can relax and be with the experience of the sensation, I discover something really interesting, that actually it's a kind of strong energy. That's what it is. It's a sensation which is a strong energy. And that energy is sometimes quite tense, sometimes quite nagging. Sometimes, if I focus on it, it will sort of expand and become weaker. So, even something like a pain in my arm is actually something quite interesting if I'll let it be, if I'll really give it attention. But often that's not what we do. We start the stories, we start the fantasies, and they are not helpful. They don't actually help one bit. And that's the thing, if we can really see that they don't help one bit, that they actually serve no purpose other than to make us more anxious, if we really see that, then we start seeing that actually we do something rather interesting. You know, we make our life quite difficult for ourselves. And of course, it's not just going to change overnight, but it does change, and it will change if we really give those sensations our attention. So that was one example. But what if we're depressed? What if we're anxious? What then? Well, it's very similar, really. So when we're depressed, we have stories that go with that depression. You know, they might be stories about not being liked. They're probably stories about not liking ourselves. They may be stories about fears that it'll never go away, that it'll only get worse, that we won't want to live. It may be stories about not being able to cope. So once again, if we can bring attention to what's happening right now, absolutely right now, not even in an hour's time, but right now. So we can start, exploring, how is this in my body? Where am I feeling that depression? Well, maybe we're feeling heavy. Maybe we're feeling we haven't got any energy. Maybe we can't be bothered. Maybe there's that sort of feeling. And what happens from there? What can we do from that point of realising that? Well, there's all sorts of things we can do. We can start looking around for a start, right where we are, right where we are. So often what I'll notice is colours. I love colour. And you probably love colours too. So there may be some colours that are helpful. It could be, for example, that blue is a calming colour, that red is an energising colour. And that might remind us, for example, to go for a walk or a run, to get outside, even if it's really hard to do that. So exercise is really good, for example, for depression. It can really help lift our mood by moving. If we don't want to go out, maybe we could do some yoga. Maybe we could jump up and down on the spot, or maybe we could bang a drum. You know, drumming can be very releasing our emotions. The important thing is to keep ourselves from getting into long stories. You know, of course, anxious thoughts will arise in our mind, but you know, if we can just see them as another sort of sensation, they just pop up. Where do they come from? They simply pop up. And if we can see them in that way, you know, undermining thoughts, they're just habits. They're habits that we've kind of made our own and decided that actually they have some reality, and they don't have a reality. And we can remind ourselves that everything changes. Sometimes if we're stuck in a rut, it can seem like things never change, but they will change if we allow them to. If we can actually sit with a rising and passing away of all experience. Every breath arises and passes away. Every mood arises and passes away. But of course we can help ourselves. We can help that to happen by doing positive things, but also noticing. So for example, coming back to the example of depression, if you really look inside yourself, there's always some experience, some sensation that is pleasurable if we really look. So it's not just meditation actually that can help us. It's certainly some concepts, ideas of Buddhism. They can be really helpful in turning things around by helping us get another perspective on life, and one that's very down to earth but very liberating. So later in the year at the Norwich Buddhist Centre we will be having some Buddhism courses. They will probably be online. But anyway, keep an eye out for them if you're interested. So that's all I've got to say for today. Bye for now.